Thank you all so much for joining this joint Zoom OpenExchange webinar with a specific focus on using virtual solutions for investor communications.
And I joined the Zoom IR team first in the support role in late 2020. And the first 5 quarters, I actually didn't meet my boss or the CFO once in person. I was extremely impressed with the smoothness of our earnings process and the added human element to what I had come to understand to be a very clunky and dry process.
First, having been a virtual event organizer really allowed me to experience the trenches, if you will, from where many of our customers come from in organizing some of these mission critical experiences that they're looking to deliver.
We were fortunate at Raymond James is we had literally just signed an enterprise-wide contract with Zoom a few months before the pandemic started. So we were already in the process of all of the associates learning how to use Zoom.
You're all on this call and you're trying to think about when should I use Zoom and when should I add in OpenExchange, because I'm going to tell you, we just came out of the Citi investor conference today, which some of you may have watched. 16,000 people were on it. Citi uses Zoom meeting room to connect to their employees. They use an OpenExchange Zoom meeting to connect the external world, total of 16,000 people. When it gets complicated, we're a layer on top of Zoom to help you execute that. And investor communications is a place that's obviously pretty complicated. These things have to go perfectly. And if they don't, that relationship is gone. And that's why I, as a CEO of OpenExchange, have appreciated the partnership with CEO over these many years.
It's become clear to us and to Zoom that there's opportunities to reimagine this cycle.
And we talk about the cycle of the earnings cycle. The first base is relatively kind of the earnings itself. Second is the virtual conferences or the physical conferences. Third will be the non-deal roadshow, and then home plate will be the investor days.
Common set of technology solutions for voice and video, common invitation and access capabilities, highly proven but variable set of delivery methodologies, and finally a unified set of reporting and analytics. Provides a unique opportunity to reduce risk and very likely reduce costs while creating an enjoyable, accessible, and easily digestible participant experience.
We're seeing a recent addition to the cycle, which is after the earnings itself, the company generally has a lot of callbacks, both with the analysts and their important investors. And then there's part 2 of that, where the analysts are getting on the next day and saying, what did they learn and how important that is, and where OpenExchange fits in, and making that a video session, webinar, Zoom webinar, rather than an audio call.
So the management team, the IRO, CFO, CEOs, sometimes they're together and sometimes it's 3 different tracks, are meeting with follow-up calls, generally the day of. We have clients who have 50 to 60, if you can believe that, Charles, you may have that many, but 50 to 60, 15-minute follow-up calls after an earnings call. Goes well into the night. It's global. We're handling all of their global meetings. And they used to do that internally themselves and drive themselves crazy. It's the sort of thing we do all day long with great ease. You sit in one room, we bring investors in, we politely take them out to bring the next investors in, and we make sure it's professional all the way through.
A lot of IR is about building trust, and management can build trust better when they're able to communicate using more than just words and intonation, and to use their facial expressions, and to also bring the analysts into the discussion.
Seeing the person's face, whether it's in person or virtual, is key. And I think that there's a lot of nuances that you can really glean out of that. And I think that both analysts and corporates are really keen to see those.
I believe if you have an analyst on an investor communication call, they should be on by video. We are starting to see people move there. I was CEO of a public company, so I know what it's like when you're doing earnings and you need to pass a note to your CFO, you need to kick the general counsel, and you need to kind of have that communication behind the scenes, so you don't want to be on the screen. But I'm telling you what, the analysts are ready for it.
And we get feedback every single quarter that the investors and analysts love the format.
We think the analysts are ready for it. Are the companies ready for doing it by video? And one of the things I loved when I saw Zoom events come out last summer was Backstage.
It's a virtual green room, as you point out, that allows organizers, panelists, moderators to connect before, during, and ultimately after the webinar that you're delivering.
And what Backstage does is it allows me as a CEO to talk to my CFO, talk to the IR, talk to general counsel in a safe spot with somebody kind of moving to the front stage, when they're answering the question. It does exactly what I was worried about when I was the CEO.
And Alan, you said frictionless experience, right? I mean, that's really important for us. And that's not just for an attendee, it's for participants, it's for panelists, it's for exhibitors, it's for sponsors. It's extremely important that every user is able to, with a click or 2 clicks, join an immersive experience.
You really have to just do it every quarter and build a culture around it. You have to, if you're using, an OpenExchange operator, have the operator start the call and just remind everybody when we get to the Q&A session, we'd love to see your faces. It adds to the whole experience. Please go video on when you ask a question. And then, we'll a lot of times we'll have the operator even chat the analyst right before they get have their question, right before it's their turn in line to ask the question, say, hey, just be ready and please go on video when you ask your question. And what we have is we have probably 95% of the time they ask it on video. The times they don't, they have an excuse. They're like, I'm driving.
We're going to use OpenExchange, and the reason why we're using OpenExchange is we know that there are backup plans to backup plans, that it's going to look professional, it's going to be seamless, the team knows what they're doing. And if it at 100%, if it's complicated and it's mission critical, absolutely we will use OpenExchange.
So much of IR is about signaling, and it's about and the signaling associated with embracing technology and showcasing the technology for your investor community to see. I think there's just a lot of opportunity to do that for a lot of companies across the US.
We had a lot of fun with you, and we look forward to engaging with you over time. Thanks, everyone.